I created this throwaway account because I need to get this off my chest. My life has turned into a soap opera in the space of a few weeks, and I'm still feel like I'm reeling. I've been married to Carla for 7 years. I have a daughter from my first marriage, but she's in college overseas. Carla has a daughter, Sasha, who's been living with us since we tied the knot. For the past 5 years, I thought we were a happy, blended family. I worked hard to put a roof over our heads, to give Sasha a stable home, and to support Carla's dream of opening her own dance studio. Looking back, it's twisted how I funded everything while living in total ignorance. I'm not the type to go snooping, but one night, Carla's phone was on the coffee table, buzzing with notifications. She was in the shower, so I picked it up to mute it. That's when I saw a text from someone named Sam, and it was explicit enough to make my heart pound. It wasn't just racy flirting. It mentioned secret hotels, dinner dates, and inside jokes. I put down the phone and tried to breathe, but my mind was spinning with 1,000 scenarios. I didn't confront Carla right away. Instead, I spent the next few days examining our cell phone bills, scanning her emails, and noticing every suspicious move. What I discovered horrified me. Carla had been carrying on a full-blown affair with Sam for 5 years. Worse, Sasha had been helping hide it, intercepting calls, lying about Carla's whereabouts, and even letting Sam into our home. My world fell apart in those moments of realization, and I knew I had to plan my next steps carefully. I felt fury unimaginable like never before. I waited another week before confronting them, gathering every bit of evidence to ensure there was no wiggle room. I felt numb, yet hyper-focused, scanning Carla's emails, saving text screenshots, and noting any suspicious transactions. It sickened me to discover hotel receipts dated during times she claimed to be on business trips. Meanwhile, messages between Sasha and Carla showed how they coordinated everything. Sasha would distract me or lie about Carla's whereabouts. The deeper I dug, the more my stomach churned. This wasn't a mistake or a one-night stand. It was a 5-year con, and I was their oblivious cash cow. When I finally had enough, I came home early and set a hidden camera in the living room. Within days, I had clear footage of Carla and Sam together. Sam left minutes before I walked in, but he couldn't erase the evidence. I called Carla and Sasha into the room, plugged a thumb drive into the TV, and pressed play. Carla went pale. Sasha stood there, wide-eyed. I said nothing until the video ended, then demanded an explanation. Carla stuttered through excuses, claiming she never meant to hurt me. Sasha mumbled something about loyalty to her mother. I felt that cold rage settling in my chest again. I told them both to pack whatever they could carry and get out. Carla tried to argue, but I held firm. I'd pay the mortgage on that house alone before letting them stay another night under my roof. Sasha tried to beg for time, but I warned them I'd call the police if they weren't gone in an hour. Then I drove around aimlessly, ignoring my phone as it buzzed. When I returned, the house was empty, and I finally felt a sliver of relief pierce my anger. I felt no pity. After they were gone, I sat on the couch, staring at the walls. Every corner of the house felt tainted by their deception. I poured myself a stiff drink and realized I had a choice: wallow in self-pity or fight back. I chose the latter. That very night, I decided to shield myself financially. Carla and I shared checking and savings accounts, plus a mortgage. I also had multiple retirement funds. Given the overwhelming evidence of her infidelity, I suspected I could protect most of our shared assets. Early the next morning, I visited the bank. I explained the situation to the manager, who directed me to a representative familiar with marital disputes. I showed them pay stubs proving I was the primary breadwinner. With their help, I opened new accounts in my name and transferred the majority of our funds, leaving only a token amount behind. I canceled every joint credit card, updated all my passwords, and froze any lines of credit. It felt ruthless, but I was done playing the nice guy. Within hours, Carla tried calling. She must have checked our balances, found them nearly empty, and panicked. I declined her call, letting it go to voicemail. Her message was full of shrill accusations about how I destroyed our savings. She ranted that Sasha was traumatized, that they were effectively homeless. She sounded furious, but I heard fear under her words. I turned off the phone and went to my lawyer's office. I'd done my homework, and I wanted to file for divorce immediately. My lawyer agreed that I had a solid case, especially with video proof of her ongoing affair. I walked out feeling more in control than I had in days, my anger sharpening my resolve. My lawyer advised me to document everything, so I spent the weekend assembling files, printing screenshots, and copying emails. I felt like a detective building a rock-solid case. Part of me was still in disbelief that Sasha had participated so willingly. I had tried to be a decent stepfather. I paid her tuition fees for dance classes, took her to the doctor when she was sick, and never treated her differently than I treated my biological daughter. Yet she'd repaid me by covering up her mother's betrayal. Late Sunday night, Carla showed up at the door, banging and shouting to let her in. I refused. She threatened to call the police, but I told her the police would side with me since her name wasn't on the deed. She could scream all she wanted, but that house was mine. I warned her I had security cameras installed. Finally, she left, shrieking curses as she drove away. The next day, I spoke to my daughter overseas. She was furious on my behalf, urging me not to give an inch. It was reassuring to have her support, especially since I worried she might resent me for kicking Sasha out. She told me that Sasha had always seemed secretive and dismissive, and that I was better off without them. That conversation hardened my resolve. If Carla thought she could guilt me into taking them back, she was dead wrong. I started therapy that week, recognizing my anger could spiral if I didn't address it. My therapist helped me see that I was allowed to feel rage and betrayal, but I needed to channel it constructively. So I channeled it into building the best legal case possible and into protecting every asset I'd worked so hard to earn. I wouldn't let them benefit from my pain. Carla's mother tried calling me next. She claimed Sasha was only following orders and that Carla had made a mistake. I nearly laughed out loud. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, not sleeping with someone for 5 years while your daughter helps cover it up. I told her mother that I had nothing left to say. I'd hired a lawyer, filed for divorce, and secured my bank accounts. There would be no discussion unless it was through my attorney. Soon after, Carla sent a barrage of text messages from different numbers, pleading for a chance to explain. She swore she never wanted to hurt me, that she still loved me, and that she'd do anything to fix this. Her words meant nothing. If she truly loved me, she wouldn't have lied for half our marriage. I blocked every new number she used. I felt a grim satisfaction in shutting her out, the same way she had shut me out of the truth for years. Meanwhile, my lawyer and I gathered more proof. We had bank statements showing suspicious withdrawals that coincided with her rendezvous. We had text logs detailing explicit plans to meet Sam. We even had Sasha's messages, which indicated she fully understood what was happening. My lawyer said it was one of the clearest infidelity cases he'd ever seen. He felt confident I could avoid paying her spousal support altogether, given the circumstances. I also insisted on selling the house once everything was finalized. That place felt tainted by the memories of their deception. My lawyer agreed it was a wise move. Any proceeds would be mine, minus a small portion if the court mandated it. I didn't care about the inconvenience. I just wanted that place off my hands, along with every remnant of my former life with them. Finally, we had our first mediation session. Carla arrived looking worn, her eyes red and puffy. Sasha wasn't there, but Carla's attorney was a younger guy who seemed uncomfortable with the mountain of evidence stacked against them. Carla tried the waterworks routine, claiming she'd been neglected, that I was always working and left her lonely. My lawyer calmly slid photos across the table, pictures of her and Sam, timestamps of their trips, screenshots of her texts bragging about how clueless I was. Carla's tears dried up quickly. Her lawyer whispered to her, and they asked for a short break. When they returned, Carla offered to settle amicably. She wanted a share of the accounts, half the house, and some monthly support. We refused. My lawyer cited the infidelity, the deception, and the fact that Carla contributed next to nothing financially. The mediator looked exhausted, but eventually we agreed on a preliminary arrangement. Carla would get a small, one-time payout, far less than she hoped for. We still had to present it to a judge, but it was a start. Over the next few days, Sasha emailed me again from a new address. She wrote a long message about how she was just trying to protect her mother, how she felt sorry for me but didn't know how to stop the affair. She insisted she never meant to hurt me, but that she had no choice. I didn't respond. She was an adult. She could have come clean or refused to lie. Instead, she conspired against me for years. I blocked her new email too. Each step of this process felt draining but also liberating. I was standing up for myself, refusing to be the doormat they had used for far too long. Revenge tasted cold, but it was still satisfying. News traveled fast among our acquaintances. Some friends reached out, shocked by Carla's actions. Others stayed neutral or urged me to reconsider. A few even suggested that I should forgive and work on the marriage. But I wasn't interested in moral lectures from people who hadn't lived my life. If they wanted to keep Carla in their social circles, that was their choice. I was done with her. With my lawyer's guidance, I also made a strategic move to freeze Carla out of our retirement accounts. She'd contributed virtually nothing to them, so the case for keeping them separate was strong. My lawyer collected every pay stub and showed the court that I'd been the sole contributor. Carla tried to argue for a piece of that pie, citing the length of our marriage, but the judge wasn't sympathetic. The affair overshadowed everything else. Eventually, Carla's attorney reached out to mine, signaling that she was ready to accept a more modest settlement to avoid a public drawn-out trial. We hammered out the details. She'd get a small sum from our savings, and I would keep the house proceeds once it's sold. She wouldn't get monthly support, nor would she touch my retirement. It was a brutal deal for her, but entirely of her own making. My lawyer recommended we finalize it quickly, and I agreed. I wanted to move on. All this time, Sasha remained radio silent, except for that last email. I later heard she moved in with a friend, then tried returning to Carla's mother's place. Carla was apparently bouncing between friends, not quite the glamorous life she'd pictured with Sam. Part of me wondered if Sam had already dumped her. Regardless, it wasn't my concern. My only focus was severing legal ties. The day the papers were officially signed, I allowed myself a moment of bittersweet relief. I'd gotten what I wanted, freedom from their lies, financial stability, and a chance to rebuild my life. Yet, I couldn't ignore the gnawing sense of betrayal that still lingered. I would never get back those wasted years or the sense of security I once had. But therapy helped me accept that the pain was part of the healing process. I listed the house on the market, determined to be rid of that place. While waiting for a buyer, I gradually packed up my belongings, discarding anything that reminded me of Carla or Sasha. Old photos, trinkets, and gifts all went into the trash or donation bin. It felt symbolic, like shedding a layer of skin. Each item I let go of made me feel lighter, more in control of my own story. During this time, I also reconnected with my daughter in a deeper way. She visited for a short break, and we spent that time laughing, catching up, and sharing stories. I felt genuine happiness again, something that had been missing for too long. She assured me she had zero sympathy for Carla or Sasha. Knowing my daughter was on my side boosted my morale. The house sold faster than I expected, and I walked away with a tidy profit. Carla was entitled to nothing further, per the settlement. I closed that chapter without a backward glance. Once the sale was complete, I moved into a new apartment. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, free of memories of their betrayal. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful, like maybe there was a future beyond the anger and hurt they left behind. Every so often, rumors would reach me. Carla was crashing on someone's couch, or Sasha was complaining that I'd cut off her tuition. None of it moved me. I'd poured money into Sasha's life for years, thinking I was doing the right thing for my stepdaughter. She chose to repay me with lies and manipulation. Actions have consequences, and I owed them nothing. Occasionally, I'd get an email from some distant relative of Carla's, calling me cruel for leaving them high and dry. I never responded. They only knew Carla's sob story, not the actual betrayal. I found new routines like cooking dinners for myself, enjoying a quiet evening without walking on eggshells. I started going to the gym more regularly, channeling any residual anger into physical activity. My therapist said it was a good way to process negative feelings, and she was right. I felt healthier, both mentally and physically. A few months later, I ran into an old acquaintance who mentioned Carla. He said she was trying to find a job and living in a cramped situation. He added that Sasha was nowhere to be seen, apparently off with friends in another city. I just shrugged, made some polite comment, and changed the subject. Inside, I felt a sense of closure. They had wanted to keep secrets and live a double life. Now they had exactly that. No stability, no safety net, and no more free rides. I never ran into Sam, nor did I care to. As far as I knew, he stayed away once things got serious. It figured that a man willing to sleep with a married woman and let her teenage daughter help hide it wouldn't stick around to pick up the pieces. Poetic justice, in my opinion. Today, I can honestly say I have no regrets about how I handled it. I refuse to let them manipulate me into forgiveness or a lenient settlement. They got what they deserved. Nothing. I gave Carla and Sasha every opportunity to live comfortably, to share a life with me built on trust. They chose deceit. Once I saw their true colors, there was no going back. If anyone reading this is facing a similar betrayal, my advice is simple. Look out for yourself. Gather evidence, protect your assets, and don't let guilt or outside pressure weaken your resolve. People will tell you to be the bigger person, to consider the history you shared, or to think about how rough the other person has it. But those are distractions from the cold, hard truth that you were wronged. You owe them nothing. I'm finally at peace. My daughter visits often, and our bond is stronger than ever. I wake up without that knot in my stomach, wondering if I'm being lied to. I go about my day with clarity, knowing I stood up for myself when it mattered most. In the end, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about self-respect. For anyone curious, Carla and Sasha remain out of my life. Last I heard, Carla was still bouncing between low-paying gigs, trying to keep her head above water. Sasha apparently blames her mother for losing a comfortable life. Neither has tried reaching out again. Good riddance. They made their bed, and now they can lie in it. That's my story. 3,000 words of betrayal, anger, and ultimately, liberation. If this helps anyone else muster the courage to protect themselves after a brutal betrayal, then at least some good came out of my nightmare. I'm moving forward, alone but unbroken.